Okay, so we already have heard about if statements. We've seen an example of payment system which works with an if statement, but this example, at least for me, was like the code we have written did not work in the same way I personally think about the problem. I mean, when I think about payment system, I don't assume that payment is at the beginning accepted or declined, and then if something happens, I change the message to payment is declined. No, for me there are two ways. Someone comes to the shop or some other place and tries to pay, and we check whether he has enough money or not, and either payment is accepted or declined. So I have two scenarios, and there is a way in Python to write code which also like tells us something like this. And to do this, we have to use another keyword, which is else. So this also makes sense. I mean, if something, then do something, else do something else. And for me, this is more intuitive way of dealing with stuff like this. So let's create identical payment system. I mean, it works as you would expect. If your account balance is smaller than what you have to pay, then payment is declined, and otherwise payment is accepted. So how I write the code? Okay, I first define the variables, and then I start with if statement. I don't do anything else before. I jumped already to conditional statement. What do I do? Well, if payment value is greater than account balance, then this code is executed. So then I create a variable msg which attains value payment is declined. And else, so if this condition is not met, then I execute this code. So payment, otherwise my message value is payment is accepted. And if I run this code, I can see that I get exactly the same behavior. Payment is declined because payment value was greater than account balance. If I, for instance, increase my account balance, then my payment is accepted. And I honestly think that this is much better way to think and to write code, because it's more readable. I can see that, okay, payment is declined if payment value is greater than account balance, and otherwise payment is accepted. It's much more at least for me, it's much more easier to understand what is going on here than what is going on here. Because here I have to think, okay, this part of code wasn't here, but still, here I can see, okay, so payment is declined if payment value is greater than account balance. But what message will I get if this condition is not met? Okay, I have to scroll through the code up and see, okay, so then payment is accepted. I have to think about it, like when this happens, and so on and so on. Of course, in this example, it's not difficult. I mean, it takes like 5 or 10 seconds. But in general, this is much more readable, I believe. Yeah, so these are if and else statements, and natural bigger picture is okay, I have programs which have 2 scenarios, but why not have 3, 4, or 5 scenarios, right? So there is also a way to deal with stuff like this in Python, and it's also quite easy. You just have to learn about third keyword, which is elif. So it's basically a compound of words else and if. And then you can have as many scenarios as you want. So the structure would look like this. So we can look at this on using an example. So imagine someone is choosing a subscription type. So basically we are checking this you can choose subscription type here. So you can choose A, B, C, or you can try something else. And if subscription type is equal to A, then this code is executed, and we get a message that you have purchased the monthly subscription. If subscription type is B, the message will be you have purchased the yearly subscription. If the subscription type is equal to C, you have purchased the unlimited subscription, and if you try to use something else, you will get information that you have chosen invalid subscription type. We can run this code and see that when the variable subscription type is equal to B, I get a message you have purchased the yearly subscription. If I change it to A, then I will get a message you have purchased the monthly subscription, so the first message. What is important here is that this code here is not executed if any of the conditions before has been met. So maybe let's have a look at, let's put something here in subscription C. So let's create a full variable. So like a variable which we just use for testing. So this variable, we can see that right now this variable does not exist. Okay, Python should return an error, name error. This variable does not exist yet. And let's choose subscription type A. Okay, so I run this code. Everything is correct. I get a green check sign. I have purchased the monthly subscription, but my foo variable still does not exist. This is because only this code was executed. Python has checked whether subscription type is equal to A. Yes, it is. So it executes the code which is here, and it skips everything which is below until we go out of this compound structure with if and else's, and this is when we stop doing ifs and indents. So here, this code here would be always executed. Okay. So Python skipped all of this. Okay. Now we can change to subscription type B, and okay, still this code hasn't been executed because this condition hasn't been met, but Python has checked this condition. Python has checked this condition, and this condition has been met. So Python doesn't even check these conditions, doesn't execute this code like at all, just goes directly here. And we can still check that foo variable still does not exist. If I choose subscription C, then yes, foo variable will start existing, and we will notice that this variable is equal to 10. There is some other important aspect of this which we will not cover in detail in this course. Basically, even if this condition is incorrect, so for instance, even if this condition is, for instance, well, let's say we have another variable which is called subscription types, and this variable is equal, I don't know, like 10. If I write subscription types here, and this error is this here is not, or maybe I won't even have this variable here. Let's have something like this. I think this code should work. Yeah, it works. See, so I have used a variable here which does not exist. We can check it here. Subscription type without E at the end. This variable does not exist. So if I input C here, then Python will start checking this condition. It will check this condition. Okay, subscription type is not equal to C. Subscription type is not equal to B. So it checks this condition. This condition contains a mistake. there is no variable like this. So if I run this code right now, I get an error because name error, subscription type without e, this variable does not exist. But until I use conditions which are before, this code runs correctly because Python never even goes into this code. It never even checks this condition. Okay, so this example shows how Python execute this else, if and elif statements. Yeah, I have fixed the error I have created here. And so the important thing is to remember is that you can use if, elif, and else statements to divide your program into more scenarios than two. And another important thing to remember is that you have the conditions are checked one by one from top to bottom, and if one of them is met, then the Python executes the code inside this condition and skips everything else. Doesn't check other conditions, doesn't execute the rest of the code, and that's all. So yeah. So these are if and else statements. You have some explanation of this here. You can go through it on your own when reading the notebook. And in the next videos, we will talk about new data type which you should know. These are booleans, and these are used to actually evaluate conditional expressions in Python. And this will help you understand how everything works. So thank you for your attention and see you in the next videos.